Hey, this is Jeff, and welcome back to the no-kill run of the Fallout 3 DLC. Luce made some dubious ethical choices on the alien mothership, and there may have been a bit of petty theft when she was selling loot after she got back. I try to keep her karma neutral so we don't get randomly jumped by Talon mercs. Anyway, she thought it might be a nice change of pace to do something unambiguously positive for once.
We welcome you always with outstretched arms.
Hey, Maple. During the no-kill run of the base game, Head of State ended on a surprisingly upbeat and wholesome note, and she just listened to a transmission on her Pip-Boy about helping some more slaves. There's no way that could end up in some morally gray no-win scenario, right? And conveniently, much like Mothership Zeta, her home away from home in Oasis was the closest map marker to where the transmission that kicks off the pit is coming from. Now, when I talk about lore, I always try to have a clear disclaimer when something I'm saying is speculation on my part or from a non-canon source. I don't generally get into the broader what's canon versus what isn't debates. I mean, who gets to decide is ultimately the owner of the intellectual property. But there are meta questions about that, like what if they publish something that massively retcons the lore? Looking at you, George Lucas. More relevant to the topic at hand, I don't have Fallout 76, but I've heard some of its DLC fleshed out a lot of lore about the pit. I haven't heard any massive Greedo shot first backlash, so I assume it didn't retcon anything that offended anyone too badly, but since Fallout 3 is set 175 years later, it shouldn't be a major issue either way. I also understand why licensed media generally isn't considered canon, even if that sometimes alienates fans of the affected spin-offs. Looking at you again, George. I've known fans of the Star Wars novels who were livid when something in a movie basically took a book or a book series and went, nope, that never happened. And it was going on long before Disney bought the franchise, so you can't blame it all on them. Again, more relevant to the topic at hand, the Fallout 3 official strategy guide isn't considered canon, but it was licensed by Bethesda and written by people who worked on the game, so I generally take what it says pretty seriously. We'll see why I'm talking about what's canon and what isn't when we get to the source of the transmission. Well, that was not the right way. And that looks like a dead end. There is a cul-de-sac under the cliffs on the very northern edge of the map with some loot at the end, but I don't think this is it. This doesn't look like what I remember. Some Yao Guai. No problem with the animal friend perk. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been here before. 20 years and hundreds of hours played, and every once in a while I still discovered nooks and crannies I've never seen. That or this is the same cul-de-sac, and wishful thinking Mandela affected the idea of loot into my brain. No way is that climbable. No guts, no glory. Yeah, no way. No, this definitely isn't the place I'm thinking of, because there's definitely loot there. I went there during the Skill Stash series for a skill book. And there are way more rad barrels and a dumpster or something, so cool. Yeah, that antenna is where we're going. Come on, almost there. Could have just walked around. Brilliant. Anyway, when we get close, we'll see there's a firefight in progress. Nobody's hostile. Oh, now they are. Well, we won't be getting involved in that, but we should at least see what's going on. Guys with some unusual armor.
Hey! What are you waiting for? Get him! You're gonna pay for that scab! You could have at least helped me with those guys. They finally tracked me down. I thought I'd have more time. You've come about the broadcast, right? Risky, I know. But it had to be done. So you know who I am. Who are you?
I came because of the radio message. What's the problem?
Well now, a hero. Look at you. I come from a place far to the northwest. It's called the Pit. It's, well, let's be honest. The place is a nightmare. Radiation, mutation, disease. But the worst of it, my people, some of the only survivors, are slaves. No big deal, you're thinking? It's a rough world, but I have a chance to free them. All I need is an outsider's help before that chance is gone.
If your people need you, what are you doing here?
I'm on the run from our dead friends over there. As soon as I found out about the cure, they came after me. And you can be damn sure they won't be the only ones.
Wait, slow down. Cure for what?
The Pit's a mess. Nearly everyone who lives there is either sick, dying, or worse. It's the water. And the air, you can't escape it. You stay there a few years, and no matter what, it'll get you. But the bastards who have my people, they found a way to cure it. And once they have that cure perfected, we don't stand a chance. So we need the cure to bargain for our freedom.
Well, bargaining is right up my alley. What's your goal?
The city is controlled by a man named Asher. He's powerful. No one there dares go against him. No one except me. I need you to sneak into the Pit and find a way to get close enough to him to steal the cure. Nothing to it, right?
Sneak is my middle name. And I'll definitely help, but just out of curiosity, why can't you do it?
They know that I know about the cure. All of them will be looking for me by now. That's why those guys came all the way here. I came here because I needed an outsider. Someone like you who has the strength to pull off what I need.
I think the first option ends the conversation. What am I trying to get?
It's the key to a cure for the mutations. Everyone in the Pit is mutated in some way. Some are just sick, some are worse. The bosses have the key to the cure. With it, we can take control of the city and free my people.
Okay. What do we need to do first?
Well, you might try a disguise. They probably won't let some random armed waster pass the gates. But if you look like one of the working stiffs, you should be able to slip in with no problem. Lucky for us, a group of slavers is nearby waiting to make a sale. You should be able to get one off of them. They're off to the west, near the tunnel that leads to the Pit. That should be our first move.
Yeah, I have a stealth suit that makes me completely invisible. I'd rather not be seen at all. But disguise or not, I should go rescue those slaves.
Whatever, just get the outfit off of one of them while you're playing hero. I'll stay here and meet up with you when it's done. Then we'll head out to the Pit.
Interesting how that conversation went from bargain for our freedom to take control of the city in about 2 minutes flat. Also interesting that he says he wants you to help him free slaves, but when you say you're going to do exactly that, he scoffs and makes fun of you. So, back to the what's canon question, the flip side of that coin is that some things are considered canon that maybe shouldn't be. What I can observe myself in the game, or like if a loading screen tells me something, I assume it's a canonical fact. But with dialogue, it kind of depends on whether or not the character is a reliable narrator. Like, Dad claims your mother died in childbirth, but while he was a visionary and a martyr, he was also a habitual liar. Did a whole video about that, link in the description. But in all seriousness, a lot of the information about the Pit is based on dialogue or journal entries from characters whose credibility is questionable at best. Wernher in particular straight up lies to you. Or if you're feeling really generous, he purposely withholds information to manipulate you and says things that may be true from a certain point of view. Sorry, need to get that George Lucas monkey off my back. But there's basically nobody in this DLC you can trust. The principal characters actually contradict each other surprisingly little on the facts themselves, even if they interpret them and respond to them from opposing viewpoints. There are some minor inconsistencies that sometimes make me wonder what's a clue and what's just an editorial oversight. Like, Wernher tells you the Brotherhood of Steel destroyed the Pit 30 years ago when he was a kid, but Rothschild says in a completely unrelated conversation that their expedition from California to DC started 23 years ago, and it's hard to imagine a reason for him to lie about that. So is it a clue that Werner's a liar, or that life in the Pit sucks so bad that 20 years seems like 30 and he lost track, or that a writer forgot to check the writer's Bible before working on the dialogue? If I had to guess, I'd say probably the latter. Anyway, the point is, what I'm about to say about the backstory is canon, but when it comes to what various characters say about the events of the last few months, I'd take it with a grain of salt. The Pitt is afflicted with a unique contamination arising from a synergy of heavy nuclear bombardment during the Great War and the fact that it was a major industrial center in an alternate universe where environmentalism wasn't really a thing, so the rivers were already highly polluted with high-tech toxins. The combination does brain damage that makes a high percentage of people uncontrollably violent, and with continued exposure, eventually mutates them into creatures called trogs, which are kind of like feral ghouls. They're biologically and visually distinct, but game-wise, they fill a similar role: fast, melee-only enemies. A bit tougher than ghouls overall, although the top-tier variants still don't hold a candle to a Reaver. Anyway, different in-game sources give conflicting accounts of whether the Brotherhood of Steel traveled through the Pit on the way from California to DC, or if they got to DC first and sent an expedition to the Pit later. Either way, it was about 20 years ago, 30 if you believe Wernher, but bottom line, Lyons couldn't resist the chance to salvage technology in a major industrial center. He hadn't been away from California that long, still had that West Coast Brotherhood approach, and even though they were heavily outnumbered, they swept through and just killed anybody who tried to fight back. This is mostly speculation on my part, but regret about that may be one of the reasons he gradually started putting a much greater emphasis on winning hearts and minds among the locals in DC. The only casualty was when a factory exploded and one of the men, Asher, was caught in the collapse. He was left for dead, but survived because of his power armor, and eventually rallied enough of the local tribes around him to become the leader of the whole city. His technical expertise let them get a steel mill up and running again, with the idea of rebuilding society, but they eventually resorted to using slave labor to keep it going. And speaking of slaves, there's a crew from Paradise Falls here to sell some slaves to a buyer from the Pit. There are several references in the game to the slaves being shipped north, and to me, this explains why slavers are so common in the Capital Wasteland while slaves are virtually non-existent. Except for escaped slaves like Hannibal's group and the ones at Paradise Falls, few random encounters where you see them in the process of being captured. Anyway, we can free these guys without having to kill anybody by pretending to be the buyer.
Are you from the Pit? I thought you were supposed to be a guy.
Cool. I'm whoever you want me to be, baby.
Well, that's how it is, huh? Well, right now I want you to be a customer. Usual price, 200 each. Boss says no trade, cash only.
600 for all three? You've got a deal.
Finally! Here's the key to the gate. Do whatever you want with him. I couldn't care less. Oh, hey, Eulogy says to tell your man that we're sorry that we could only get 3. We'll get a better roundup next time. Pleasure doing business with you.
Now unlocking the gate won't turn them hostile.
Oh my God! Are you real? You're here to save us? Where are we going?
You're free now. I'm not planning on dressing like a slave, but if I was...
Wait, we're free? You're serious? You just paid money just so you can let us go? You're either the kindest person in the world or the dumbest. Either way, thank you. I can help you. It's the least I can do. What is it that you need?
This guy wants me to get some slave clothes. Long story.
That guy over there on the mattress died last night. I never did get his name. If you don't mind the smell, you can just take his.
Great. Thanks. Be careful out there.
We will. Thank you again, stranger. We owe you our lives.
I like that the slavers don't care that the slaves run off. They're like, hey, we got the money. Not my problem anymore. Luz certainly isn't squeamish about wearing clothes taken off a dead man, but why bother with a disguise when we have a stealth suit that makes us completely invisible? We just sneak in, steal the cure, maybe free some more slaves along the way. Easy peasy. Wernher waits just outside the slaver camp and Force greets you again when you approach him, at which point you can proceed to the pit. At least I don't think you can use the handcar without him. Let's go check. You can't leave him here for plot reasons, but companions catch up at loading screens, so maybe he'll catch up with us. No, didn't think so. Before we talk to him, I don't think I was quite finished with the backstory. Fast forward 20 years after the Brotherhood invasion, which everybody calls the Scourge. Wernher was Asher's right-hand man, but he attempted a coup, ended up enslaved, and he's been trying to stir up a slave revolt ever since. And as he told us, he thinks the promise of a cure will get that over the finish line. Which sounds quite heroic, but eventually it turns out he has zero interest in the slaves or even the cure. He just wants to finish what he started, depose Asher, and take over himself. He's happy to use the slaves as cannon fodder, after which most of the survivors will go straight back to the mill. Some people have said things would be even worse under Wernher, and part of me thinks they're probably right, but another part of me is reminded of the scene in Life of Brian where the guy's being stoned to death for blasphemy. He gets hit by a rock and blasphemes again, and the guard says, "Better stop that, you'll get in worse trouble." And while some of that was a bit spoilery, I'm not giving away the big second act twist until we get there. So let's just say it doesn't cast him in any better light. Of course, while Luce knows the broad backstory up to 20 years ago from her time at the Citadel, at this point she has nothing other than her psychic intuition to tell her that Wernher isn't exactly what he initially claims to be. But she still doesn't trust him any farther than she can throw him. Which, with strength 2, isn't very far. Where is he? He usually stands over at the eastern edge of the map, like 20 feet away from the slavers. But I do not see him. He should be right there. I would have sworn that getting a disguise was an optional objective, but apparently I was wrong. Now we have the objective to return to Wernher. And there he is.
All right, you got a disguise. Good, good. We're ready to head out. I'll meet you up by the tunnel that leads to the pit. You go get whatever you'll need for the trip.
Where did you come from? Because I searched this whole area not 30 seconds ago.
I followed you. I've gotten very good at staying out of sight when I don't want to be seen.
I can tell. Do you have a stealth suit? Maybe we can talk shop on the way to the pit. All right, I'll meet you over by the tunnel.
Whatever you say, hero. Just don't take too long. We need to get started. This ain't a short trip.
This tunnel leads to a complicated network of tunnels and old highways that travel far to the northwest to the pit. The going will be rough and harsh, supplies will be scarce, and you won't be able to return until your business there is concluded. Are you sure you wish to travel to the pit? Indeed I am. And off we go. After the loading screen, we end up in a train yard near the pit, and some of Asher's men will be waiting there. And oddly, despite his emphasis on stealth, Wernher doesn't even attempt to sneak around them.
Hang on, someone's coming. Let me do the talking.
Luce is going to stay hidden, of course, but if you go in all guns blazing, you'll miss an interesting exchange, because they all obviously know each other. And if you are doing it the murdery way, there are a couple up there that'll ambush you from above. Anyway, let's watch this.
Hey, what are you guys doing here?
I might ask you the same thing. You got a lot of guts coming back to this place, Wernher.
Yeah? Well, I guess that's the difference between us. I have a lot of guts. You don't. Hey!
He's marked as essential for the moment, so he won't have any trouble taking care of them on his own. There's a container up on the ambush ledge that I know for a fact never respawns. 2, actually. We'll stash souvenirs and loot here so it's easier to haul back to the Capital Wasteland later.
This is as far as I can go. It's up to you from here on out. Don't expect to take anything you have in with you. They'll strip you clean, but I'll find a way to get your things back to you. Once you're inside, find a slave named Medea. She'll be able to help you. Remember, your goal is to get access to Asher and find the cure. After you have it, I'll contact you.
They can't strip me if they can't see me, Wernher. But get in, find Medea. Got it.
That's it. Good luck. We're counting on you.
I had mixed feelings about the Pit when it came out, and my opinions evolved over the years, but it's still kind of mixed. One thing that doesn't bug me as much as it did at first is the geography. I lived in Pittsburgh many years ago, long before the game came out, so I was looking forward to doing some post-war sightseeing, and boy was I disappointed. In the base game, if you've seen something on a postcard from DC, you can probably find it in the game, maybe even explore it. Whereas the Pit has a grand total of 2 recognizable landmarks. 3 if you count the skyline. And for a long time I thought they hadn't even gotten that quite right. But I found out years later there's a terminal downtown that explains the bridge isn't the South 10th Street Bridge, but a replica they built on the site of the old Wabash Bridge. And then it was like, yeah, from that angle, that's just about right. But other than the bridge and the Cathedral of Learning, there just aren't any notable real-world locations you can visit, which still irks me a little bit, but not as much as it used to. There are some wild men in this building to the left. See if we can get a look at them. They're basically this DLC's equivalent of raiders, highly aggressive NPCs with a mix of ranged and melee weapons that are hostile to everything except each other. They dress more like mercs or slavers, maybe a subtle hint that they weren't always this violent until the brain damage from the contamination got to them. One thing about this DLC that hasn't grown on me, maybe you read between the lines when I was talking about lore, but I like that the factions aren't cardboard cutout good guys and bad guys, even though it looks that way right now, but I don't like the fact that there's no good ending. If you've been following the channel for a while, you've probably noticed that I have a bit of a contrarian, anti-authoritarian streak, and the first time I played this, I was 100% Team Wernher. Ignored all the red flags, either because I wasn't used to Fallout 3 being quite that nuanced, or just because I didn't want to see them, maybe a bit of both. So I was pretty surprised at the end of the quest. And there's a wild man, like I said, pretty much a raider wearing a merc outfit. Not saying I need a happy ending, especially when the context of a game makes it pretty clear there won't be one, but I do like some acknowledgement that what I did mattered, for better or worse. You know, the Lone Wanderer was a hero. The Lone Wanderer was a selfish prick. The Lone Wanderer committed genocide, and history always remembers war criminals. Whereas the Pit not only doesn't give you that feeling, but it actively slaps you in the face with the opposite. Okay, there are actually 4 landmarks, but still only 2 you can explore. If you look past this empty plaza, you can see the funicular on the side of Mount Washington. There are a couple of mods that remove that fence and repopulate Station Square, and of course Quo Vadis opens the Wabash Tunnel and adds a little neighborhood on top of Mount Washington. The bridge is usually a nightmare, but light step means we won't need to worry about traps, mines, or a chain reaction of car explosions. Animal Friend means we won't have to worry about the wildlife, and the stealth suit means we don't have to worry about the sniper, so it should be a piece of cake today. Anyway, what I mean about the DLC slapping you in the face, you get the exact same message at the end of the quest, no matter which faction you side with. And it basically says, you made everybody's lives worse, but enjoy your perk, asshole. Which I'd be fine with if that's what I was trying to do, or if there was a way to avoid it and just failed. But what I mean is there's no good or bad ending, and the message makes it pretty clear they did it on purpose. I mean, kudos for subverting expectations, I guess, but not a fan of that decision. I know there are a lot of games that only have one ending, and that's fine if the story is you're a space marine, your objective is kill everything, and you either do that and win or die trying. Or narrative games that are like, the story team really wanted to make movies, but they're stuck here at a game company, so we'll make the hard decisions and tell you how you're supposed to feel about them later. But the stealth sections are really fun. Enjoy! But you know, Fallout games don't tend to be in those genres. I guess we can take a peek at the sniper nest. There's some decent loot up there, Radaway being especially valuable in this DLC. I forget exactly how radioactive the river is, but I think it's hundreds of rads per second. Unfortunately, it's not like Vault 87 where you can jump in and survive just for bragging rights. Even if you get your rad resistance up to the cap of 85%, have a truckload of radaway on a hotkey, and use a scoped weapon to scout for places you could get back out, you'll discover that the whole shore is lined with invisible walls. And yes, I'm speaking from experience. You know what? The Radaway is in a crate on that shelf, and that's just a bit too tight to be worth the risk of having her turn around and bump into me. Well, at least now we've seen it. Now some escaped slaves should, run around the corner and get blown up by the mines. Which we should stay away from. Didn't take any damage. Good. Where are you going? Something in that truck? I wonder how far they'd make it if you disarmed every mine and killed the sniper and the dogs. Might have to try that sometime. Anyway, my overconfidence in the stealth suit is mostly role-playing because Luz has gotten overly dependent on it, and that's gonna bite her in the ass hard in about 2 minutes. But I do have a plan. If you haven't played this before, there are basically 3 ways this can go down. The first 2 walk up to the gate and a guy force greets you. First, if you're wearing a slave disguise, you can pretend to be one of the escaped slaves coming back because the bridge was too scary, in which case they'll confiscate everything else and send you back to work. Second, disguise or not, you can try to bluff your way in. If you succeed, they'll pretend to believe you, but you'll get jumped and robbed in a cutscene as soon as you go inside. Third, you can preemptively kill the greeter and the other guards from a distance before he has a chance to force greet you, but you just get a slightly different cutscene where the guys who jump you are a bit annoyed that you killed their buddies. But let's see if there's a fourth option. Can't force greet me if you're frozen. Have a cryo grenade. Go. I'm still only in caution. Oh, I think he's thawing out. Get inside. Now, that's obviously not going to bypass the cutscene, but I am curious which version we get.
What? You thought you could kill my buddies at the gate, and we just let you walk in here? On any other day, I'd just stake you out for the drugs. But Asher says to put you to work. And what the big man says, goes. But it looks like we're gonna get some good stuff out of it, eh?
Hey, I didn't kill anybody. Can't we talk this through?
Ah, talk to this! Get her, boys!
Okay. That is a pretty big group in a confined space, so we'll chalk it up to Luz being careless and letting somebody turn around and bump into her when she walked through the door.
Relax. They messed you up pretty bad.
You're flying.
Take it easy. Don't move too quickly.
Are you an angel?
Come on. Sit up now. What were you thinking, trying to shoot your way in here like that? That's not going to help anyone. I thought Wernher said you were supposed to be clever. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You're here now, and you look like one of us. So that's good. But we can't talk out in the open like this. Meet me in my house as soon as you get yourself together. We'll talk there.
If you saw the Quo Vadis walkthrough, sorry about reusing that joke, but it just amuses me how the camera gets left in an awkward position after the cutscene. And sure enough, we have absolutely nothing left. Except a bobblehead that I apparently forgot to put in the stand. The script that strips you can't remove quest items. So if you come here while the mole rat research part of the Wasteland Survival Guide is active, you'll keep the repellent stick. It's not as good as the switchblade Wernher can give you if you ask him for a holdout weapon, but the knife is usually in terrible condition, especially if you're low level. If it breaks, you won't have anything to repair it with, and if you have decent melee weapon skill, the repellent stick is at least better than your bare hands. And while that's technically an exploit, I can imagine Redup saying, "I told you morons to take anything valuable," and one of his thugs is like, "Boss, it's a stick." The opportunities to re-equip yourself here in the downtown zone where there's no risk are extremely limited. There are some containers that have a small chance of spawning low-level loot, and one well-hidden stash that would be unspectacular under ordinary circumstances, but might be a lifesaver here. Even dirty water might seem like a godsend, so it's a good thing Luz took the lead belly perk back when she was poor and desperate for any source of healing she could get her hands on. Another item with pros and cons is right around the corner here. Anything in the other room? Doesn't look like it. Alright, let's talk to Kai.
Move on, scab.
Yeah, what do you want?
It seems kind of presumptuous to get on her ass about not working, especially when she clearly is, but what are you doing?
I am working. You must be new here. I serve the slop to the other slaves. You want food? Let me know. The good news is that this crap is nearly unlimited. But it's mostly radiated water and trog meat anyway. You want some or not?
Sure.
It's your funeral. Here you go.
Slop is an excellent healing item, 25 hit points, but that comes at the cost of 25 rads. And Lead Belly only reduces rads from dirty water, so that's kind of a last resort. Spiked Knuckles might be a pretty sweet drop if you have decent unarmed skill. Useless to lose. Ooh, Nuka-Cola, though. There's the jackpot. Hockey Mask. Well, better than nothing. Damage resistance, too. Beggars can't be choosers. I think there's a guaranteed Nuka. Yeah, right there. The secret stash I mentioned is around here, back in this alley. Hold on. What condition is our slave outfit in? Oh yeah, definitely take that. Which one of these do I like better? I know fashion is the least of our worries, but... yeah, basic black is the way to go. Once I show you the stash, I'm going to go back and get more slop from Kai. Forget what the limit is, but she'll give you like 3 servings per day or something. It looks lovely with the hockey mask. Anyway, the stash is in this hollowed out engine block. Oh yes. It's been a long time since I was this excited about finding 2 stim packs. And this is a dead end, but you can see the entrance to the mill from here. There's probably some more random stuff in there that would normally just be junk, but might be the difference between life and death now. Although, Medea's going to send us in there anyway, and I've been at this a while, so I think I'm going to call it a day. As always, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment if you have questions or suggestions, and I'll see you next week.
Eyes front. Do your work.
Sorry. Jeez.